Okay, hi everyone. We're going to talk about the Robert McAlpine tender event schedule macro and what it's about, and in particular, how you need to structure a project. So, as you know, you tend to have multiple activities on one row of the plan that have got different activity codes, and we can see those activity codes in a library that I've called procurement stage. You don't have to call it that, but it is a useful one. So every stage has got a unique reference. If you don't want the stage in the report, you can use this an excluded stage, and what identifies that as being excluded is that it's got a negative number in the sort order. Okay, so whilst we're also here in the library, there are three user-defined fields, which, if they don't exist in your project, will be created the very first time you run the macro. So if you don't see them there, then run the macro, which is on the add-ins tab. So once you've had it installed, and also if you can't see these in the Library Explorer, right mouse click in a blank area of the screen, choose the show libraries, and they're going to be on the left hand side, not show fields, not show libraries, and then they're going to be on the left hand side over here, and you're going to take that and move it to the right hand side so that it's displayed. Okay, so that's the basic idea. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but whilst we're here, if it's got a tick, we're going to get a duration column in the tender event schedule. If we don't, we're just going to get a date. We're going to see if we tick here, again, we're going to get a column that shows us the gap between the original and the current. And this is the heading that we will use on the report to group horizontal sections. So again, that's something you've got to type in, text sensitive, so capitalization, trailing spaces, those sort of things make them unique. So we need to have two essential items. We need to have packages, procurement stages, and optional is package groups, how we might group them horizontally, and you'll see more when you see the report. So the task in front of you is to code these up correctly, and if you don't have those and want them from somebody else, you can go to the Code Library Explorer. You can select all those three with a shift click. You can copy them, and in your open another project, and you can paste them into there as well. So you can very rapidly steal them from somebody else. So then we've got to make sure we code it properly. So the procurement stage is a task property. So this column is from the code section, the task procurement stage. So it's different for every task. The packages is for all of the tasks on the same row. So it's the bar package. So in the codes section here, we choose bar packages. It doesn't matter what we call it at the top of the screen, but I'm highlighting that for you. And again, when it comes to the horizontal grouping, you can either reference all the tasks in a summary as having a task package code, or you can identify individual rows by having a bar package group. So a little bit complicated. Spend a minute to understand it, and then you won't need to go wrong. So the setup of the program is important. It doesn't have to have a baseline. You won't get any variances, obviously, if it doesn't have a baseline, but that's the basic steps that you need to take. So once you've got a project set up in this fashion, and you've installed the macro, which will then be on the add-ins tool button, it will be a tool button called SRM TES, and then if you press that the first time, you get the first page, and this is basically checking the structure of the report, making sure it's got the right user-defined fields, and it will create them if you haven't got them. So you might have to cancel at this stage and redo them if it's the first time. It will tell you if there's any problems, and it'll highlight what they are. So generally, you're just going to come to this page and check it and go next. And this is where you choose which libraries from the available libraries you have are going to be used for each of the procurement task code, the package barcode, and the package grouping by bar or summary for a group. So we get to that, but at any stage, if we can click on a run report, we're going to get to this next stage, and I'll come back to this because you're going to have a list of user-defined fields, bar user-defined fields, and we can choose by drag and drop to put it to the right-hand side of the report or to the left-hand. We can have 5 on the left, but only 1 on the right, but we'll come back to that. So generally, once you've set this up, you're at this stage. And again, this is probably something you want to seek advice from your senior planner, what variance steps we're going to use. So what will make it go orange, what will make it go red, and that's how late you are compared to the baseline for each of these stages. And we can limit how far into the future we show any variance. If you don't want any variance shown, just type in 0. So again, this would be a fairly standard setup. And you just get to this point where you click on run report, and then essentially that's going to then do the business, and it's going to open Excel in the background, and it's going to present it to you on screen. So then here's the Excel. So it's going to present it as an unsaved Excel document. So the enabling works, the superstructure, you can see that that's been, if I close the macro page, so show me the Excel again. So we can see that vertical grouping, enabling works and superstructure is coming from this part of the project. So I can probably highlight these on screen. So we're using the task allocation to a summary bar, or we're using the bar allocation from bar to package groups to give you this vertical grouping. Should be fairly straightforward. We've got the horizontal grouping, which is whether it's design or over here, whether it's procurement, whatever stage that's at. That's coming from the text user-defined field in the code library. So just to remind you where that is, that's coming from this grouping, whether it's design, procurement, design, etc. That's where it's picking up that horizontal grouping. And then we're getting an individual column for every one of our procurement stages. So we've got agree. If we see that one in detail, go back to Excel, choose a highlighter tool. So we've got agree scope here, and there on the document we've got an agree scope is showing as a date. There's the that's the variance in working weeks. That's the baseline date. That's the current date. So you've got all of that information, and it's just so quick to run it whenever you want to. So that's the basics of the report that we've done. And so you do have to remember to save that somewhere and give it a name, because it's just an unsaved document at this moment in time. So I just wanted to touch on the only bit I haven't really touched on. It's a little bit specialist, but if you remember, and just look in the general help about this, but if you go to the project tab, and you have to have saved the project to do this, the user field window icon will become enabled. And if we choose the category that we want to create user field for, we're going to do it for bars, everything on that row. So if I had a new one here, a new user field, and a string is a piece of text, so that I need to give it a name. So you would use it for some particular comment. I've probably got one that's too similar. And it can't have spaces in it. Okay, so when we say close or apply, it's going to close all of the windows apart from one. So then if we populated that, so we need to have another column, so we can add a new column here, which is going to be a user field, and it's going to be one of the ones that we created, new row or so let's say new row. So we won't bother with the title. So for this one, it's so that's row 2, row 3, row 4, etc. So we've got it populated, and so if we then go to our macro again, and all of this is okay because we know this is good, so we can see we've got the detail on new user field there. So if we want it on the left hand side of the report, we drag it into this side here, or we could put it on the right hand side. And so when we run the report, we're going to get that extra column with those comments on the left hand side of the report. So I'm just waiting for Excel to be opened in the background, and there we are. So so you can see here we've got the new row and the comments that we've put in for that. So that's how it's structured. And if you say you want it on the right, then you get it over here. So so I think that's everything you need to know. So give it a go. If you've got any problems, call our help desk on 01844 261 609 and happy tender event scheduling.